All right, let's talk Olive Garden. Everybody's favorite local mom and pop Italian place, right? I'll be honest with you, this is totally sidetracked. I don't think I've ever been to an Olive Garden before. Not that I haven't
That's
like, seen them around and stuff, but I don't think I've ever been to one before.
that's criminal. So Olive Garden is the must have when we're doing away trips for Alfred. And when we go recruiting, myself and my coach, it is always at least one Olive Garden trip. Fantastic.
I can't say I'm desperate to get out there, but I'm sure I will be at an Olive Garden eventually. But I apologize. I don't remember the name exactly. I want to give some credit that this idea came from the person who was involved with the MLS iceberg. For those that know about that, and had a lot of details and stories behind MLS, kind of similar to like what we're doing now. So while this isn't a story in a lot of depth, we definitely wanted to cover it considering all that that person has done for MLS history. So
Give
I don't know if you
me
have the
just
details.
Yep, give me just 1 second. I don't have the name, but I do have the Reddit account. So
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
I
Yeah.
will tell you that it was. Where'd it go? There it is. The Low End Tabasque.
All right.
Yep. So the Low End Tabasque. Thank you for all of your fantastic um, contributions. This is what really kicked us off. I hope you're listening. We'll definitely tag you in it. Um, but it's funny because this story that you're about to tell is actually in a book I read, and I completely overlooked it. So it's called It's Phil West's book called The United States of Soccer. It basically outlines the first 20 years of MLS history, and it's a little tiny one, but it's just a little snippet, but it's mentioned in there. This story that you're about to tell. I won't spoil it, but I just found it funny that I read the whole book before even doing any of this, and just completely like whoosh, cool, whatever. You know?
Yeah, they were nice to link this as a source. So I did pull up this book by Phil West or article, however you want to classify it. I would say I think it's a book. Um, but yes, so my source for this one is the United States of Soccer by Phil West, and within there, this story is retold by at the time the SKC or the SK Wizards public relations director Rob Thompson, who is now the chief communications officer for SKC. And this was during this. The story was about the Kansas City Wizards 1998 preseason in Bradenton, Florida. We all know everything amazing happens in Florida. So when it came to the team getting a vitamin-rich, nutritious meal, where better to get a sponsorship deal than at the Olive Garden? The Wiz essentially remixed the Dunkin' slogan to KC's on breadsticks for the 1998 preseason. So, due to this sponsorship, the Wiz were eating every single meal at Olive Garden, and that consisted of lunch and dinner every day for 6 weeks. That is a lot of meals to be eating at Olive Garden. So I don't really have too much in regard to what exactly their Olive deal kind of looked like, or um, quotes or stuff from the team, but there was an excerpt that I think was related to it that I really wanted to talk about because I thought it was honestly hilarious. So you might be wondering, how would eating Olive Garden every day for 6 weeks impact the team's training? Don't worry, because Rob remembers that very well. So he recalls that 3 days out from their opening preseason game at night, Coach Ron Newman made the team do a 2 mile run. So Rob recalls that the runs worked as follows. So Coach Newman would call Rob when the run was starting and Rob would start the stopwatch to track everyone's time. And when they crossed the finish line where Rob was stationed, Rob would log their time. So, likely considering their dietary habits in the preseason, Mo Johnston, his forward and future SKC Hall of Famer, had asked Rob if he could start the stopwatch 30 seconds later to help make the times look a little bit better. One problem, though. Rob forgot to start the stopwatch until 3 minutes in. And so this resulted in some ridiculous times, including an 8:42 mile time from left back Jake Dancy. So to give some perspective on that, this time was about 40 seconds off from the world record 2 mile time in 1998, all while fettuccine Alfredo was filled in his bloodstream. So Coach Newman was somehow not suspicious about these results, and instead was so excited that he decided he was going to play Jake Dancy at striker. Just a reminder that Jake was a left back. Easy to say that the experiment did not last very long and was not very successful. So while this isn't a very in-depth story, that's kind of the brief story of the Kansas City Wizards time in or deal with Olive Garden 1998 preseason.
When you started talking about the 2 mile time, it all came back to me. So I remember reading that story and I texted my friend who was reading the book with me. And I was like, this is the funniest thing ever. Cause the amount of times we've done stuff like that, like in high school, like, oh, like, there's a guy who's hurt. He's going to run the time. Like, yo, Andy, like, start it like 10, 15 seconds late. Like, let's make us all look good. Like, we talk about all the time, but they actually did it. It's just so funny, the little stuff that you don't realize. Um, it's fantastic. That's such a good story.
Yeah, it goes all the way up to the professional level.
People never change. It's so funny. You get the kids who are always going to be kids. You get the guys who are always going to try and sneak that last 10, 15 seconds. It happens wherever you go, and you just gotta go with it. So good. So good. Fantastic book, by the way. Phil West's The United States of Soccer. 110% recommend it. I have learned, and I didn't realize this when I was doing all this work. I'm kind of now turning into like an MLS history nerd. Love anything that has to do with early MLS and telling the story. If you are one of those, it is a great book to read. Definitely consider go looking into it. It's fantastic.